Hey everyone, hello, welcome to Grit and Grace. This is Shylo Eckstrom. I have an amazing guest with me today, Amanda Smith, the mindset engineer, and we are excited. Real conversations, real people, real grit, okay? So we're gonna jump right into it, but before we do, don't forget to download the Lux TV app. This is a Lux Studio production, so go check that out. You can get us on YouTube. On February 12th, this will be off of Facebook and onto Spotify and all the podcast outlets. So make sure you're downloading the app and getting plugged in. Okay, Amanda, I'm super excited. I obviously wanted you on my show. I wanted you to be my first guest, and there's a reason for that. Amanda and I have been friends for several years. She's also walked me through a lot of mindset perception changes. She's been with me through some really tough times, and she's just an all around an amazing woman, an amazing mother, wife, but also an amazing friend. And her talents are spread. And I'm just going to get my phone because I'm not going to pretend I can remember all this because she's just incredible. So, you know, you've seen a lot of adversity. You've been through a lot, the loss of your father, the loss of your father-in-law. You also served in the Navy, which is awesome. You know, she focuses on a lot of healing here. You have 2 children. Obviously, you have an amazing husband, Nick. I'm going to say that. You know, you are helping people through metaphysics. I know you're earning a master's degree right now. You were in Utah for a long time. So people probably are like, wait, she's in Utah. No, she's not. She's in Meeker, Colorado. Beautiful, beautiful. Let's see what else. You know, you're a coach, you do foot zoning. You're going to explain what that is because there's a lot of people are like, what the heck is that? Just a safe place. You know, I think we're going to get into a little bit more of you. I don't want to just read a bio because you're much more than a bio. I'll tell you that because there's a lot of people who are going to be tuning in and they do know you. And then people who do not know you need to get to know her. Amanda and I just discovered Clubhouse. So get on Clubhouse because that's a really cool place that we just discovered. And I know Amanda was on there last night. She spoke and all of a sudden she blew up because the minute she starts speaking, which you're going to hear in just a second, you know why people are drawn to her, why she's been in the healing field. You know, she does incredible things for people. And most of the time she's doing it out of the kindness of her heart, but we do want you to know that you can have Amanda help you if she is someone that you might be drawn to today. So, okay, Amanda, before we go into the topics we chose, because I know, you know, you and I spoke briefly, and then right before the show, we were kind of talking about what do we want to talk about today. But so for the listeners, why don't you go ahead and fill in the gaps on where I might have missed, and just tell us a little bit more about yourself for someone who might not know.
Absolutely. First of all, I'm really proud of you for doing this and getting on and doing a podcast. And I know that you wanted to get out there, and this is just, it's so epic to see you shining such a bright light for so many people. And to have me on, I mean, that's just a huge honor. So thank you. To fill in some of the gaps, you know, I've always been gifted. I was actually afraid of my gift from the time I was very little, and I avoided it. And the more I avoided being authentically me, that's when my world kind of started to crash. And I went through a lot of adversity. I've gone bankrupt. I have had sexual abuse. Like, there's just been a lot of things that have happened that you can't put into a bio. So when I sit with people and they're going through these financial struggles, or they've had this trauma in their life, or they've lost children, or, you know, they've been through suicide, you know, I can sit with them and I tell people, I'll get in the well with you all day long. Like, I will jump in the well. I will sit there with you. I will understand the weight of the world on your shoulders. But at the end of the day, I've got a rope and I've got a lifeline that'll pull me back out so that I don't take on any of your stuff. Because a lot of people in my industry, you know, they take on the weight of their clients. They actually put it on physically, mentally. It shows up in their life. It shows up in their addictions. It shows up in how they live. And I refuse to put myself in that situation again, because essentially it's fear-based, right? It's like the more you help people, the more the weight of their stuff is going to affect you. And I know that, you know, so many times in our life, and I'm sure for you too, the people around you actually affect your energy. They affect who you are. They affect how you live, your happiness, your joy, how you sleep at night. And so that's one of the things that I've been through so much in my life, and I've had a great life. Like, I've never been a victim to my situations. I know that I'm going through something for a reason. When I beat cancer in 4 months, like the doctor said I was a miracle. And I just kept thinking like, this isn't the end for me. Like, oh, I've got something to do. And that is helping people. And like you said, a lot of it is out of the kindness of my heart, just because I think that people deserve a chance to be heard and felt and loved unconditionally for who they are. But at the end of the day, we all have to have an energetic exchange. So that's why I have a business. But yeah, our conversations are so cool because we always end up on some tangent and it's like, oh my gosh, that's epic. We got to talk about that. So yeah, I'm just glad to be here, Shylo.
Well, I'm excited too. And we're going to talk at the end when we go into your foot zoning because it's very interesting. And I've actually got to be foot zoned one time. I didn't get the full experience because we were at an event. And so I couldn't totally dive in, but it was cool. And people are probably I want people to kind of think about it while we talk. Like, what the heck is that? So at the end, we can remind them. You said something about living in your authentic self. When we don't live in our authentic self, that's when all hell breaks loose. Like, I know you walked through that with me. I mean, we've both seen it in each other. We've both walked through some storms separate times and was like, oh yeah, I wasn't living in my authentic self. I mean, I think a lot of people do that. I think if you go into the business world, we've been on many different areas of life together, but in the business realm together, when we look at people with highly successful people in competitive areas, this is one of the biggest things I see. And it's so hard to teach somebody when they're trying. And so being authentic is really important. So I want to ask you before we talk about fear, because that is our topic today, is fear. So everyone who's joining us, we want to talk about fear because it is everywhere right now. It is happening on massive levels. Fear is used for propaganda. Fear is used to drive things, good and bad. And we really want to change your thought process around fear. But let's talk about that. So you weren't living authentically, and I know I wasn't, and I was destroying myself. So I was trying to be this person I wasn't, and it finally I like snapped out of it and had to go through a major shift to be like, screw this, I'm going to be me, and I don't care what people think. And I think it does come down to that. Sometimes you have to not care what people think. But talk about that quickly in the journey that you took. What was going on, and how did you fix that? Because you have completely transformed.
Yeah, so it really started when I was in the military. I just didn't want my gift. I was so afraid of it. I was so scared to be me, right? And we all have gifts. So I'm not talking about some metaphysical mediumship gift that you're petrified of. I'm talking about showing up in a group of people authentically that, you might worry they're going to judge you. And I know my biggest adventure was when I decided to walk away from a $7 million a year business. I knew that I needed to go. I knew that I needed to shift. I couldn't be who I was in that space. And when I walked away from that, it was like I was walking away from a foundation of friendships and relationships and financial income. But I couldn't stay there. And so, I had a paycheck on Tuesday. The next Tuesday it was gone. And it was like, what am I going to do now? But when you close one door, another door opens, and sometimes you don't know what that door is going to be. And this is where fear comes in. We're so afraid as humans, as souls, to have this fear of change. The only consistent thing in life is change. Your skin changes, your cells change, who you are changes, the people you're around change, your children grow up. There's so many things in life, in all of it. You don't like the same movies or the same books, but yet as humans we're so afraid of change. So there's this massive holdback. And I know I was in an abusive relationship for 5 years, and my biggest fear was never being loved again. It was like, is anyone ever going to love me again? I'm so broken. At that point in my life, I couldn't even go to the grocery store without making sure it was okay that I bought a can of peas, or it was just, I was in this very terrible place. And I had a friend tell me, she said, you're literally sitting on a fence. You've got one leg on one side and one leg on the other. And you're so afraid of what's going to happen that you're literally putting yourself in this miserable, painful place. And she said, the only person that's going to be able to change this is you. You have to make a decision. And how many times as people do we just avoid the decision? We just keep living in this space of normal or what we know because it's better than what we don't know. And that's, I think, when fear comes in, we have to look at where we're at, where we've been, and where we want to go. And I remember that text message, you talked about it on your live yesterday, but you said, why am I going through all these things? I've already done this before. And I said, you didn't go through them sober. You went through them numb. And if you've numbed yourself in any situation in your life, the universe and God is going to say, hey, you didn't really experience that. It's time for you to experience this and feel it. You have to feel the pain. You have to feel the struggle. You have to feel that overwhelming sense of what happens next. And fear is the best medicine for that, because if you have anything you're afraid of, you should do it and do it boldly.
Yeah. And I think that it's so true. So I'm going to talk about a couple of my fears that have come up lately, because everybody has fear. I mean, I'm not telling people, well, you can walk through life with zero fears. No, I mean, fear drives us. There's healthy fears, like fear of dying. I mean, a lot of people have that fear. It's the number one fear, I believe, in public speaking, which is so funny because I used to be super afraid of public speaking, like on a level that I wouldn't have done a thing. I was frozen. And it's amazing what physically fear can do to you, though. Like, think about what we'll do to ourselves because we're scared. We were talking about, before we got started, we were chit-chatting and we're talking about weight loss and stuff. And like, what do we think like was the reason, I had held on to so much weight? Because I was a small person, I gained like 30 some pounds. I had a moment where I had gained some water weight. And it's like, it wasn't just drinking. If you don't know me, I've been sober for over 7 months now, and that's what Amanda's talking about. And, I've all my life, alcohol's been in my life. And so numbing things was always way easier than dealing with some of the biggest issues in front of me. And
but was it really? That's the thing.
Right. No, it wasn't. Like, it wasn't. It was just prolonging what was going to happen anyways. Like, and a lot of the times when you numb something, what happens is it comes tenfold what you actually have to deal with, because your body, your mind is like, you're going to deal with this now. And it's like a freight train. And that's why you see a lot of people crash. That's why you see a lot of people have meltdowns and things happen. So coming back into fears, my biggest fear, and this is something that I would have never said before, and I feel so silly when I say it sometimes, is being alone. Like, ultimately dying alone, being alone, like nobody loves me, nobody wants me. Like, I have this weird fear that has—
You're not alone in that.
Oh, I know.
That was one of my biggest fears about everything I've ever changed in my life is, am I going to be loved?
Right. And then it's that worth, your self-worth. And this has been coming up a lot for me lately. Just so many things. And I'm like, whoa, why is this being challenged? But you said it. I hadn't dealt with these feelings. This is childhood emotions. I remember when I was thinking about it, being a child, having these same emotions, and how I dealt with it was I was very active in sports. And so I was just always finding an outlet until alcohol came in and I found that outlet. But I was always finding outlets to make myself feel worth. And I think, you see a lot of these adults, they're little kids in adult bodies. We are still living out our childhood traumas. And if they're not our traumas, we're living out our parents' traumas, and we have to deal with it. And that's why Amanda is so incredible, because this is what we're dealing with. So let's hit fear. False evidence appearing real. We know this. Fear is a liar. Okay. But Amanda, let's dive into fear a little bit more as we talk about weight gain, physical things. I've seen fear destroy people, destroy marriages, destroy everything, and
lives, suicide, and depression. Like in America, the people who take anti-depression medication, it's an epidemic, and people don't talk about it, and then with 2020 and everything that happened, people were forced to face who they really were in 2020. And I've said this since October of 2019. I hope we're prepared to face our biggest, deepest, darkest, fear, our shadow self, that part of us that wants to keep us safe. And I call it the ego. It edges God out. It edges ourselves away from ourselves. It keeps you small and safe. And you said it, right? Like, we carry a suitcase around with us from the time that we are born. And every traumatic event we stuff in the suitcase. Well, we carry that suitcase with us until somebody comes along and says, hey, you weren't supposed to carry that with you. You were just supposed to experience that. And then you have to actually let it go. You have to release it. And there's so many different ways to do that. There's meditation, there's yoga, there's singing bowls. And I mean, I have flutes, right? Like, I play music. There's so many things, but society has never taught us how to get closer to ourselves. It's actually told us, you should probably numb or go to a doctor or, go to that party and get hammered, or, hey, here's this drug that'll make you feel better. And we've become a society of accepting numbness. And that's one of the biggest things, I think personally, is why so many people struggle with depression, obesity, heart disease is the number one killer in America, right? How many people do you know that are addicted to something? They're addicted to Tylenol, sugar, cigarettes, alcohol, drugs, antidepressants, painkillers. There's all these things, and they're all just an avenue that makes it easier. And I say that very casually, but it makes it easier for you to deal with your life. But as a soul, we came here to have a human experience, in my opinion. And I think that you forgot how much you already knew. So you have to experience these things to elevate your experience. And life is like a video game. You start out on level 1. And if you don't kill the beast at the end or accomplish that goal, you repeat level 1 over and over and over again. And how many times have you heard somebody say, I can't believe this is happening to me again? I just went through this with these friends. I just went through this with this spouse or this ex or this boyfriend or this employer, right? How many people have you heard say that? And I instantly tell them, you haven't beat the level yet. You haven't learned what your soul needed to learn for you to accomplish the next hard thing. And I had a conversation with Bob Proctor when I was going through cancer. He's an absolutely incredible human. He changed my life. He's a friend of mine. I can call him and he answers the phone, which is so mind-blowing to me because little Amanda Smith gets to talk to Bob Proctor, right? But he told me, he said, do you think problems go away as you get older or more experienced? And I said, well, I hope so. I don't want to be dealing with problems all my life. And he said, no, as you advance in your experience here, your problems get bigger, but how much time you spend on them gets less. And it was like, that to me was the most mind-blowing thing. And everything I experienced in my life, even my husband losing his job and us moving to Colorado, I was like, if that would have happened to me 5 years ago, I would have been in a complete and total terrible state of depression and anxiety and fear and all this stuff. But because I've experienced so much, I was like, hey, let's go. This is an adventure. There's got to be a reason. God said, you're moving. And I said, okay. And here we are. And it's been the best thing for our family, for my children, for my husband, for me. And it's been humbling too.
I think what I just heard, and this is incredible, but it's our perception of fear. It has to change. Like Louise Hayes had a video. I mean, she was incredible. She was incredible, and her teachings were incredible. But she talks about boulders and how you really know if you got over something is if that same boulder came back around and how you handled it. And it's so funny because it does. You get presented the same thing over and over and over. You just get to see if you, like you said, pass the level. Did you get around the boulder, or did the boulder stop you? Like, I mean, and it happens sometimes. I'm so proud of myself. I'm like, God, I handled that so well. Like 5 years ago, just like you said, I would have totally crumbled. And then there's times I'm like, shit, I didn't handle that well at all. I didn't learn my lesson. Like, whoa.
I think we've all been there in that.
You're
It's like, wait, can we have a redo? Can I start that over? Because I probably would have handled it a little bit.
I did not handle that well. I reacted poorly and got to go back to the drawing board. But being aware of it. Okay, so this is the other level of that is being aware. So your perception of fear and then your awareness of fear, and knowing when it's setting in and being even aware that the reaction may not be appropriate, or this isn't the reaction I want to take. That's a step. So I think a lot of people, like, if they don't master it, they think they failed. Absolutely not. You know, Edison, what was it, 1,000 times for the light bulb, and he got it. Here's the thing. We're going to have to do things a lot. We are humans. We are designed to make mistakes. That's how we get better and figure it out. And so I think your perception of fear is really what we have to change. And when we talk about being a mindset engineer, that's where Amanda comes in. And that's why she's so good at shifting it so quick. But the one thing about wanting this type of healing, this type of shift in your life, you have to be ready for it. And you have to be, number one, accountable. I wrote that word down too for today because we're going to go into that in a little bit. But accountability, I mean, this is something I'm seeing across the board in our society. It's completely going to the wayside. Like, oh no, that's not my fault. That's that person's fault and that person's fault and this and this and this and this. And we're becoming a society of victims and blamers. And it's scary, you know, on the level that we're getting to here. And when you combine that mentality with fear and fear-based methods, you have what's going on right now. You have a society.
Can't be vulnerable.
Yeah, there's a society riddled with fear. And there's a lot of people there's a lot of healers coming out of this last year. There's a lot of healers, or there's healers who are stepping into their power because they're identifying what's actually happening and they're stepping out of it. I've talked to a lot of people, and sobriety is becoming on the rise too. It's not just because people felt like getting sober. It's because it's a shift in the entire universe. People are starting to come into that. And let's just talk about that. Let's talk about, as a society, I talked about trauma yesterday too, but let's talk about fear, accountability, and society as a whole, because I think that's the bigger picture. There's a lot of people listening right now, Amanda, who are going, I don't know what's going on. So let's give them some perspective on that.
Okay, so as you're talking about that, a client pops into my head, and I never say names or experiences or where they're from, but I had a client and she reached out to me and she said, I'm so angry. And I don't know how to feel this anger that's bubbling up inside. And I said, well, you've always been taught that you're not supposed to be angry. I said, but I can bet you have somebody who was angry with you a lot in your childhood. And she said, I hate my mother. And I said, hating your mother is actually that hate that's ravaging inside of you, right? We have to figure out how to come out. And I said, it's the only client I've ever had that gave me a bad review. But then 6 months later, she came back and told me that I literally changed her life. So this is what I told her. And this is very blunt and it's very aggressive and it's very true. And sometimes the truth cuts really, really deep, right? And I said, when you get to a point when you can thank your mother for being who she was with you and creating the person you are today, that is when you know that you have come to some sort of healing. So we're in this blame, shame, judgment, egotistical, prideful world. And we can't get vulnerable in that space. We can't come to a place where we say, why am I having this experience? What is my perception of this experience? And how can I change it? How can I fix it? What can I do to enhance this, right? And so sometimes we have to cut to the core, right, of the bullshit and say, okay, I know I experienced this for a reason. My mom beat the crap out of me for, whatever, however long I've lived with her. I hated her so much that then I am aggressive and mean and I can't get a relationship and my finances are a mess. What is it that I need to shift? Well, maybe you're supposed to work with abused children. Maybe you're supposed to go into a space where you actually help somebody that went through what you went through. And you guys, there's some really heavy, heavy things that come through. People that you would never know have experienced trauma that you cannot even imagine, right? I think I read a study and it said like 1 in every 5 children have been molested at some point in their life. I mean, it's terrible, right? So here they are living with this really low vibration. They've never been taught that maybe they experienced that so that their soul could have a higher experience this go around, or for this experience or whatever. So I think, to answer your question, Shylo, awareness is key, but it's not just being aware of it. It's being vulnerable enough to say, I need to work on me.
That's a big one. And I think, I've been through trauma, and even as a 39-year-old woman, I'm realizing traumas that I just ignored. I joke about that, like, oh, it was fine. Everybody said it was fine. No, it wasn't. There were things, but that doesn't mean it has to be my story in a negative way. We have to remember, we're here to change lives. We're here to help people. While we're here, we have purpose, right? Our stories are our purpose. We might think it's so funny because 5 years ago, I would have never thought part of my story would have even mattered. And now I'm like, holy crap, I could help a lot of people with that story. I just never realized it. And I never thought it was valuable. Everybody has value and everybody has a purpose, but we have to dive in and tap into that. And a lot of the times it just comes down to sharing our stories, whether it be with a person one-on-one. If you're somebody who gets on a platform and does that, that's great. And Amanda is never afraid to speak to somebody, whether you're in the elevator, it doesn't matter. Amanda will talk to you no matter where you are. It doesn't matter if she knows you or not. She is that person. You will always have a safe place with her. But no matter what it is, never be afraid to share your story, even if it impacts one person. I think it's so important. Yes, accountability is important, but yeah, you've got to be ready to take those steps.
Well, and on that too, Shylo, really quick, I just wrote this down. In life, you have mentors, right? Like every single situation is a teacher. Every experience it's teaching you something. So if you can get into a student mentality versus a victim mentality, life literally will become an experience for you. So when I was diagnosed with cancer, I went straight into victim mode. And I said, I can't die. I have babies. I have to be a mother. I have to live for them. Like, my husband can't raise my babies without me on this planet, which of course he could if that was my path that I chose. But I got really angry and I said, no, God, like, I have a purpose here, damn it. Like, I am supposed to be here. Take this from me. And when I got the answer, it was like, okay, you have to be a student and you have to learn. Like, stop thinking you have everything figured out. Stop thinking you know everything. And I went into this realm of learning. I went into the Bible. I went into studying all of the things about cells and how they work and how guilt and resentment actually feeds cancer in your body. And I told that to one person and she thought I was crazy. But come to find out, she had massive issues with her father, right? So it's like, once we can become aware and become a student, if I could put anything out in this, fear is a teacher. It's like, listen, are you ready for the lesson? And we've all heard this saying, when you're ready, the teacher appears. When the student is ready, the mentor shows up. Like, put yourself in a student body and say, what am I going to learn through this? So you're going through a divorce. So you're getting ready to move. So you've lost your business. So you just got diagnosed with a disease, a diabetes, cancer, whatever it is. Ask yourself this one question: what can I learn through this? Because the next question right after that is, how can I teach someone else?
So true. Be a student, not a victim. So I see this a lot again, in our society, but business life, it doesn't matter where it is the blame and victimhood. And why, and you touched on how that could be detrimental to your health. I mean, the one thing though, Gary Vee, I was listening to him. Obviously, there's a lot of great people that I listen to, but he's just straight to the point. I love it. Straight up, no chaser, kind of like me. And you have to take 100% responsibility for everything you do. Like, when you do that, though, this is what I want to help people with. When you start showing up like that as a student and taking responsibility and not getting so wrapped up in your ego, like, oh, I made a mistake, it's this person's fault. No, no, no. I made a mistake. Celebrate it. You have to shift your perception on mistakes, failures, and screw ups, because that is what's going to get you there. And when you start taking 100% responsibility and accountability, life gets easier. It 100% does, because now you don't have to worry about who the blame is getting shifted to. You don't have to feel this resentment towards others. You know what? I've had many things go on in my life, and even in the last year, 6 months, couple weeks, every time I've sat back when anything has come up, small, big, and I might message Amanda, but I also think about it and I say, why is this coming up? And I don't blame the other person. If it's a person or people, I go, what role did I have to play in this? And it's that simple. That does not mean you are taking on everyone else's responsibility. This is where I think, Amanda, people get really wrapped up. No, you're not the only one who might have made a mistake, but own your part in it and be willing to give grace. Give grace to those who made the mistake. Let them own their mistake. Right now, you need to focus on you and what you could do differently, your perception, whatever it is, be a student. And I think that's really important to me right now, because I see a lot of people out there, and this is politically, you can see this is so plain, so I can talk politics lightly, is to get a narrative that fits their own narrative. That's how you blame and point fingers and exaggerate the truth. And all of a sudden, words that were said one way are being interpreted another because it fits the narrative for your story. This is happening on every level, not just in politics, not just mainstream media. I see this everywhere. Twisting words and making it work for you, so you do not have to take accountability for the actual thing that happened. And it's a sickness, and it hurts businesses, it hurts lives, it hurts marriages, relationships, and it hurts everyone. And so let's take some time on this, because this one really drives me nuts. The victimhood and the blame. How can we shift this?
So this is excuse me, this is huge. It doesn't just start in politics and mainstream media and social media. This starts with when the human wakes up in the morning and they wake up and say, who am I today? Or what am I going to do today? And so, I like to create content and I like to give you guys stuff that you can work on. So if this is the first time you've heard any of this stuff and you're like, wow, these guys are like, whoa, what's going on? Start with the book, The Four Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz, because if you are impeccable with your word, if you don't take anything personal, now think about that. If you don't take anything personally, like nothing. So the guy flips you off as you're driving down the street and you're like, oh my gosh, like what a jerk. If you don't take his actions and his miserable day personally, then the universe says, oh, well, maybe that doesn't really affect her, right? Like I have this saying that you got to put your own Rain-X on, right? You kind of have to Rain-X yourself, Rain-X your soul, Rain-X your energy, so that no matter what hits you, you have time to be an observer first and then react later, right? So we want to experience something, kind of like let it sit. And this is why, I posted a lot of great stuff on Facebook, but one of the things I posted on Facebook was, oh, it just left me. Dang it. I hate that when that happens. But the third thing is don't make assumptions. So say you get a text message and, oh, I remember what it is. It's, have you ever, like all you want to reply back is this mean, nasty text message on Facebook and you're like, rah! And then all you put, because you have self-resolve and you're in an observer state, you just write, okay. Like how many times have we done that, right? That's when you know that you've put the Rain-X on, because you can become an observer of a situation, experience it, but you don't have to take it personally. And then the fourth one, sorry, my phone just died and I don't have them memorized. The fourth one is always do your best, right? Like if you can be impeccable with your word, not take anything personally, don't make assumptions. If you make an assumption, assume spells ass out of you and me, right? Like it makes an ass out of you and me, whoever's involved. And then always do your best. So if you always show up at 100%, you can never go into guilt or resentment or shame. Or now if you're not showing up 100%, work on that and become aware of it and do your best. But with that not being vulnerable, you said something in the beginning when you said that, it's everybody's fault. It's always somebody else's fault. So you get in a fight with somebody and, oh, well, they didn't handle it correctly, or this didn't happen the way it should have happened, right? And you can look at this anywhere in the world right now. Somebody is always at fault. Somebody said something and they took it the wrong way. You could just go scroll through anything on Facebook right now and there's people arguing back and forth. But don't ruin an apology with an excuse, right? I'm sorry that I showed up in a way that didn't help this situation. I'll do better next time. Period, end of story, it's done. Now, obviously there's situations where, people really might need an excuse for that. But if you do your part, show up and do your best, don't make any assumptions and don't take anything personal, life gets really, really simple.
It really does. I think that's so important. As we wrap up, we're going to talk a little bit more about Amanda's specific foot zoning, and we're going to get into that too. But The Four Agreements is an incredible book. Get it on Audible, get whatever, just get it. And it's like a guide to life. Like really. And one of my things for this year was be impeccable with my word. I really wanted to focus on that. And it's so funny, Amanda, that the beginning of 2021, my word was challenged for the last 3 weeks. Isn't that funny how that works? Like, what? I didn't say that, right? Like my words are getting twisted, not necessarily because someone else's fault. It was maybe I wasn't communicating it clearly. Wow, there it is. I got to work on that, So I've been like, whoa, I got to slow it down and start focusing on my words again and really make sure that that's something I do. So, okay, incredible show. We're not quite done. I do want you to talk about foot zoning, your specialties. I want you to give, where can people find you? Okay, somebody's listening to this. Where the heck can they find Amanda Smith? What can you do for them? And let's go into that, because I really want to make sure people can find you after this episode.
Okay, I'm on Facebook is my main platform. I am trying to switch off of Facebook just because of everything that's happening on there. I'm in Clubhouse, Amanda Smith 44. I'm on Instagram, and I also have a Twitter account now, which I didn't know that I would like Twitter, but it's actually kind of fun. I think I have 3 followers on Twitter. The best way to get a hold of me is my email address, and that's vision4life at gmail.com. So I think that's what it is. I should probably look. Hang on. This is how organized I am in my business. Usually I just give people my cell phone.
I know, me too. I'm like, wait, I have to think about this. Okay.
I know. Yeah. Okay. It's Vision for Life. So VISION for the number 4 life.amanda@gmail.com. And that's the easiest way to get a hold of me. Facebook Messenger rocks. Foot zoning is something that I really like, the tangible. People say, ew, I don't want somebody touching my feet, or, oh gosh, how do you touch feet all day? But I broke my ankle, and my friend called me and said, Amanda, I think that you would be a good foot zone practitioner. And I said, no, I broke my ankle. I don't want to touch people's feet. Thanks, but no thanks. Like, I'm good. But she convinced me that this might be the avenue that I could actually use my gift in a tangible way. I'm a practitioner. It's not like woo woo, right? So I get on somebody's feet, and all of a sudden I can feel if your digestive system is a disaster. I know when your lymph system is a mess. I can tell where your migraines are coming from. And I'm not treating, diagnosing, or curing anything, but I'm able to kind of give you a reason why you might be going through something. And obviously, on this platform, it would be hard for me to be a foot zone practitioner for people here. But there's tons of foot zone practitioners. You can look up, what is foot zoning. Reflexology is similar. But basically what I do is I trigger, and I have a badge of honor. So this is my, it's a callus on my thumb because this is what I use. But we call it a badge of honor because, the more you foot zone, the bigger it gets. But you actually trigger points on the feet that get your body to activate. So say your lymph system is a mess. So I trigger the lymph system, and all of a sudden your lymph system says, whoa, we got to take out the trash here, right? This is what the lymph system does. It holds trauma. It holds all the junk in your body, holds all the toxins. And if you can trigger those points to actually activate, then your body can say, whoa, we need to do something about this, and kind of release it. Same with the brain, the pineal gland. We do energy zones. We do all the muscle structures, fascia. Like, fascia is a really big deal in your body because the tighter you hold your body, the more your fascia builds up. The more your fascia builds up, the more of a callus you have, so you don't experience life in a flexible way. But one of the things I do is it's called a client tune-up session. And so if you want to book one of those with me, I would love to get on with you. And we just do what Shylo and I are doing here, basically. We just get on, you bring a question to me, and then I can help you flip that perception shift, right? Like, okay, can you look at this in a little bit of a different way? Plus then the weird part, the woo-woo part, the good part, the gift part comes out, and I can guide your energy kind of like in a direction your soul wants. And sometimes that's really hard, right? Well, you're not supposed to stay at this job. You've been wanting to leave this job for 6 years. Why are you still there? Well, I'm afraid. Okay, well, let's start working on that fear and then move forward with it. So yeah, I love what I do. I love being able to help people. And it's stuff like with my friendship with Shylo. We've known each other for almost 10 years now, which I think is mind blowing. But it's seeing people just take, a one-line text and change their whole life and do what they were supposed to do for a year, right? You were supposed to start a podcast a year ago, and here it is. And it's just so awesome to see. So thank you for having me on, Shylo. I just love you to pieces.
Well, I'm super grateful to have you on. Amanda Smith, mindset engineer, an amazing woman, and grateful for this episode number 2 in the books. Go ahead and find us on Lux TV app. This is a Lux Media production. We will be off Facebook. So this will live on Facebook, but no longer as of February 12th. So make sure you got Spotify or Apple Podcasts, something, get the TV app. Check us out. You can find me or ask me questions at rebelinfluencer@gmail.com if you have any questions, comments, or anything for the show. And again, Amanda, awesome. I hope you have an incredible day. And yeah, this is a wrap. Episode number 2 in the books. Thank you. Thanks, everybody. Catch you on the next one.
Now, glutathione is a big word, but it's the body's own master antioxidant. So it's a scavenger for free radicals, for bacteria, and what's relevant now, viruses. This is new to the marketplace. There's no other product on the market that has the ingredient NACET.
And basically NACET increases the production of that glutathione that is in our body already to strengthen and enhance our immune system and keep it strong. Elevated sense of well-being. Supports muscle strength and endurance. Cognitive function. Powerful liver support. energy, helps blood sugar regulation, superior bioavailability of key ingredients.
One of your best defenses against COVID is a strong immune system. Taking GSH Plus as a daily supplement does all that. And now we have the product out on the marketplace.